Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, think about your city for a second. All that concrete, the traffic, the way it gets so hot in the summer and floods when it rains. What if the solution wasn't, more engineering, but actually more nature? Today, we're jumping into a fascinating presentation by Carla Cañada of Sequoia Pro that's all about this idea, how we can fix our biggest urban problems by working with nature instead of fighting against it. So all this thinking comes out of a recent event that was really focused on regenerative design. And that's all about this kind of radical, but also super simple idea. What if our cities could work like ecosystems, actually healing themselves and the environment all around them? So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to define what these nature-based solutions actually are. Then we'll check out the different tools in this toolbox. After that, we'll look at some incredible real-world projects, get honest about the challenges, and then wrap it all up with a really powerful new way of seeing the city itself. All right, let's dive right in. When we say nature as a solution, what are we really talking about? Okay, the most important part to get here is that this is not some generic, one-size-fits-all kind of deal. It's more like a doctor treating a patient. You have to figure out the specific problem, whether it's crazy heat waves, flooding, or pollution, and then use the local ecosystem's own built-in strengths to whip up a custom-made cure. So what kind of tools are we talking about here? Well, turns out they are literally all around us. Let's start with the really big ones, forests and rivers. This is a complete mindset shift, right? Instead of battling a river with giant concrete walls, this approach says, hey, let's work with its natural flow. Let's use native plants to build a buffer zone. Let's design parks that can actually soak up floodwater when needed. It's all about letting the ecosystem do the heavy lifting, a job it has literally perfected over millions of years. And what's so cool is that this exact same thinking works on a much smaller scale too. In our farms, in our cities, even little things, like putting up nest boxes for bats so they can eat pests, or just letting wildflowers grow around trees instead of paving right up to the trunk. All of it can have a huge impact. Each little intervention is a step toward rebuilding a healthier, more resilient place to live. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like when you do it? Well, let's take a look at 4 amazing case studies from Sequoia Pro that really bring these ideas to life. First up, we have the town of Estevella. So what was their problem? A struggling local ecosystem that was getting overrun by invasive species. The nature-based fix wasn't just about planting pretty flowers, it was about strategically restoring the natural balance, kicking out the invasive plants, creating tiny little habitats for local wildlife, and using native, water-wise plants to bring the town's own green spaces back to life. Next, let's look at Anguera. This town was dealing with some seriously dangerous heat waves. Instead of just cranking up the AC, they built a whole network of natural cooling zones. And what I think is so brilliant here is the use of green pergolas. They provide awesome shade in the scorching summer, but then they let the sun shine through in the colder winter months. It's just smart, simple, and it works. Now, in Riola, the Juco River was a constant flood threat. The old-school playbook would just scream, build a higher wall. But the new, nature-based way of thinking was totally different. They decided to give space back to the river. They created this absolutely beautiful park that also acts as a natural floodplain, which solves the flood risk and gives the community an incredible new public space. That's a huge win-win. And finally, we've got Suka. So after a disaster damaged the town, they used the reconstruction funds as an opportunity to build back way smarter. They put in something called Sustainable Urban Drainage Systems, or SUDS. It sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means replacing hard pavement with surfaces that actually let water soak through, creating little rain gardens on sidewalks, and even putting a green roof on a city building to manage rainwater and cool things down. These projects are just so inspiring. But, let's get practical. How hard is it to actually pull this stuff off? What are the real hurdles you're going to face? This is the million-dollar question for any mayor or city planner, right? Is it money? Is it some kind of complex technology? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. And here it is. The biggest challenge isn't a lack of cash or technology. It's a mental block. It's about shifting from that old gray infrastructure mindset where we just build on top of nature to a whole new way of thinking, where we design and build with nature, making our projects a living, breathing part of the ecosystem. Okay, so that's a big idea. But what about smaller towns? Does a place need a massive budget to even think about trying projects like these?
And the answer from Carla Cañada is a huge, resounding no. Actually, it's often the other way around. By creating a clear plan, a sustainability roadmap, that's exactly how smaller towns and cities can attract funding. It shows they have a vision, and that's what investors and grant programs are really excited to get behind.
So, we've covered the definition, we've seen the tools, the real-world projects, and the big challenges. After all of that, what's the one big idea we should all walk away with? It all comes down to this single point. We have to stop seeing our cities as these concrete islands, completely separate from the natural world. A city isn't just in an environment. A city is an environment. And the moment we start designing them as living, breathing parts of the larger ecosystem, they just become healthier, more resilient, and way better places for all of us to live. Nature isn't just a park you visit on the weekend. It's the operating system for a successful city. And that leaves us with one last thought for you to take with you. Just look around your own street, your own neighborhood. What are the challenges you see every day? And now ask yourself, what if the solution wasn't more concrete or another pipe? What if it was more nature? How could the ecosystem you're already living in help make your home better?